Say good morning, everybody.
Good morning. What's
Bright
happening?
and early. This is great.
I got a good night of sleep last night. I put myself to bed at, I think, a little bit before 10. I bet I was asleep by 10 o'clock, man.
Hey, look at you. All right.
Well,
All right.
I had to rake the lawn, which is got to do it before the snow comes, I guess, because winter's coming. So I was working. I earned my sleep last night. Usually I just sleep,
Yeah, I guess that's more, it's more important to rake in the north than it is in Florida then, huh?
Oh yeah, I would have never touched it. I just waited for a good wind, But yeah, no, once the snow comes, then it all rots on your lawn, and then it's still there in the spring, and the lawn doesn't come back, and you gotta. This is a strange place that people landed to live.
Yeah, but it does. I mean, from what I've seen, it looks beautiful. It looks good.
It is. It's great, but I'm thinking like anthropologically, like in our not evolution, we were humans, but why here? Like no water, no electricity. This is the place. Let's go here. Let's stop here, right? Like this seems plenty harsh, Martha. We're gonna stop here and make our home forever. Like I don't. Historically, that's what I put myself in.
I'm worried about the beginning of the show because of Tradesman Exotics comment. Y'all drinking decaf? Is there not enough energy in this?
Yeah, I'm just not awake. That's Tito, and I'm not drinking decaf. It just hasn't taken yet.
I don't know. Was that directed at us, Tito?
Oh, definitely.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Tito was no subtleties. If you think it's at you, it's at you. That's for sure.
That's great. Where is Tito from?
Tito's in Jacksonville. He's my boy in Jacksonville, man.
Sweet.
Yeah, he was my rodent guy, and he knows a lot about snakes. So we would always he's got a few of my snakes, and he always helped me out. And then like when I would go on vacation, he'd keep an eye on the snakes. When he would go out of town, I'd go keep an eye on his. So it was he was a good colleague to have in Jacksonville.
Good.
And the first time I met him, he was wearing a Ramones t-shirt. I was like, this guy gets it. He practices his craft. He wears
fast friends.
Appreciates punk rock. Yeah.
So this past week you had before we get started. I mean, this is I love the comments. This is like a hang. So we do have a theme and we do prep. I want everybody to know that, even though sometimes we go down rabbit holes. We do have a theme and we do prep. But what makes the show really, really fun is interacting with you all who are here live. So if you are listening, we have a few hundred listeners throughout the week. If you are listening,
again last week,
we hit 300 again.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row. The show was capped 300 within 1 week. So we're 300 people. That's like,
come on.
Have you ever stood in front of a room with 300 people? That's a lot of people, man.
It's a lot of people. Yes, it is a lot of people.
Right.
I have spoken to a group of 300 people. It didn't go well. That's a story for another time. If I think about this too much, it might not go well.
Give yourself a little credit. You've done it twice in a row now. Every 2 Thursdays in a row, you're getting big. So.
But what I'm saying is, if you're listening, if you're one of those 300 people that isn't coming to, Thursday morning, if you can get to it, see this on Thursday morning, listen on Thursday morning, just tune in and have a good time with us, because we love interacting with everybody. And it's just, it's just fun to say, hey, on a Thursday morning and talk to, an idiot about snakes. So what happened this past week? I think you had another show this past week, right?
Yeah, I went to Green Bay, and it was fitting. Like, sometimes you get a self-fulfilling prophecy that you have to be careful about. So at the end of last week's show, Joe and I were talking, and I was like, you know what? I hope everybody doesn't think that you just like show up at a reptile show, make $1,300 and go eat some ribeyes, drink some good wine, and wait for the next show to come around to collect your money, because they're not reliable, and it's got a lot of work has gone into building the brand to get there. And Joe was like, well, we should talk about like the bad show that you've had, and we could talk about Davenport. And I was like, yeah, I kind of picked it apart, but maybe we'll go back to it. Maybe we'll highlight the challenges through the lens of Davenport. No, hold the boat. Green Bay will step right up and take care of that. Well, Green Bay was like, oh, you need a bum show for a good set of content. So, and let me clarify, it wasn't a bum show, and it was better than Davenport, but I cut to the chase. Spoiler alert, $0. So these two shows that are oddly similar in that I've driven 5 hours each way for both of them. I got a hotel for both of them. And I got $0. So the highest overhead, the most work, the most time, nothing. Now,
yeah.
The difference being, and let me say, when I said a bum show, the revenues were bum, but the show is very good. Scale Up Exotics, they do, that's run by Brittany and Dylan. They do a fantastic job. They get people through the door. The venue was at a casino, real nice. I believe it was a Oneida tribal casino. Very, very, very nice. I mean, I walked in, I was like, man, I look like it looked like ZZ Top was about to take the stage or something. Like, I mean, like the lighting and the sound and the room was just really cool. It was really great. So in that way, I felt like I was doing business. I felt like there were people I was interacting with. I think even Merlin's in the audience. There was some people that came from, I'd met in lacrosse, came back and saw me at that show. So I think that's like the first step in a new market. If I ask myself, which market did I like better, Green Bay or Davenport? Green Bay. I felt like I was doing business. I felt like it just didn't happen that day. I didn't have what people wanted, or the money didn't line up right for them, or whatever. Davenport, I don't think there was any action, any business to be had in the room. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Let me think of some other things that stood out to me on the way. The time had just changed. And as you drive west out of Green Bay through the Packer traffic, because there's one road in and one road out, and there's more seats in the Packer Stadium than there are people in the town of Green Bay. So everyone in Wisconsin has come to this little town, and everyone's leaving at the same time the show is ending. So I'm heading west in a traffic jam. I see the sun going down, and I'm like, man, it's going to be a late night. And I look down, and it's like 4:18 in the afternoon. I'm like, oh no, it's already getting dark. It's not, we're just 1 week into November, and it's this dark this early. Like,
right. Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, what have I done, man?
Yeah. So I'm happy that I don't have to, I was sitting on a wire.
Okay.
I'm happy that I don't have to light my room in the morning now that we do this.
Oh, okay.
This is all natural light. What do you think?
Look at you getting your vitamin D, all that. Yeah. I thought you had a little glow to you.
And then, but yeah, oh my gosh, it gets late. I mean, it gets dark early, and I don't know.
It gets late early around here, my man.
Yeah, and I'm sure it gets late early. It gets darker there earlier than here even. So
yeah, and actually it turns out Green Bay, and I always envision Green Bay is like got to be the north, just because of football. I'm like, it's got to be way up north. It's the very same. What's that?
Oh,
latitude?
okay.
It's the very same latitude.
Yeah,
as,
gotcha.
It's just straight east and west. So, but it was good. I need revenue. You got to keep going. You can't just live on moral victories and good vibes. But
right.
But better to have moral victories and good vibes than nothing. So I'll take that. Next show was really big. What's that?
And Green Bay was good vibes, better vibes than Davenport. It wasn't as big of a. I mean, I think that's what our conversation was last week, is that we talked, you were very transparent about, the shows over the past few month and a half, past few weeks, and we went through that, and then but then we got off, and I was like, okay, well, Davenport, you had just moved to Minnesota, and it was your first show, and that not only that Davenport wasn't right for you, but it came at a time when you were like, things have to be right for me.
Yeah, I put some serious pressure on myself. Yeah, okay, that's fair. And that actually is like the title, like the Fear and Loathing in Western Wisconsin, but it sounded better than Davenport because we already talked about it. Yeah, the context at the time, I hadn't proven anything in this market.
Yeah.
I had all the pressure of the world. Again, Florida was fine. We had a good life there. We had money coming in. We had things figured out, and we were like, nope, we're going somewhere else. And then first shot as a dud, you're like, and you got, maybe not everybody has this relationship, but my relationship with Kelly, and that's my wife, those of y'all that don't know, she's incredibly patient. Like, imagine telling your significant others, all right, I've had enough of this industry. I'm really good in it, and I'm going to step out, and I'm going to play some music, and I'm going to sling some snakes. Right. Doesn't our son still need to go to college? Don't we have some dreams and savings and retirement to get to? Yeah, I got it. I'm going to cover it. Got it. Taking care of it.
Yeah.
So because of her patience and trust and faith, I feel a huge weight to produce.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay, Adam, you want to play these games? You better go produce. If you don't produce, guess what? There's a country club right down the road. They probably need a food and beverage director. There's all sorts of things you could be doing. So there's that built-in pressure, and it's always under the microscope of like, what have you done lately? And I don't mean that from Kelly. I mean that towards myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's a 5-hour drive, you got a long time to think about that answer.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's so first of all, I think that's I think you put that on yourself. I think
I do.
And so I think even like I don't even think Kelly's gonna say like, oh, there's a country club down the road.
No.
You're putting that
she knows I would put that on myself though too.
Yeah.
Like
so. And the other thing too though is, which is because I've done this to Chelsea too a few times, switching things or even switching industries and starting my own business and stuff like that. So it's I've done that a few times. What is surprising is every once in a while she says, you're good at what you do. You're investing in yourself. You're everything that you've tried, it's worked out, so it's not just about like, oh, I love you, go and do what they've seen evidence that you can do what you want to do.
We're going to figure it out. Yeah. And that's true. And it is because of that pressure. It's because of that perspective that I keep. I don't know if the audience is familiar on this show or not, or any show for that matter, but I keep a running spreadsheet of financial goals. And I mean, like 10 years out, I have a projected of what I want the net worth to be. And I break it down by month between now and then. Mm-hmm. I have a personal goal of a personal early retirement and the money I think that it'll take to achieve that. And I update that thing every day. I'm absolutely crazy about it, but it fuels my dreams. Yeah. And it tells me how I'm doing, and it lets me know if I could splurge or not splurge. Am I ahead of my goal or behind the goal? And every now and again, Kelly's like, well, what's the sheet say? And I'm like, well, we're 2 years ahead. She's like, okay, you got time.
Okay. So you're 2 years ahead of your projection.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Adam.
It drives me. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Like,
okay. So this is because this was kind of my question when we started to talk about Davenport last week, and then we're like, okay, wait a second, let's talk about this next week when we're together again with our buddies.
Yeah,
let's like you hit that low point, you get like you go, oh my gosh, how is this? Am I gonna make this work in Minnesota? Is it gonna work? Your first show, no money, driving 5 hours there, driving 5 hours back. And then, so what is the thing that keeps you going? Is it that it's that sheet? Is it what helps you to pick your head up and go,
it's some of the sheet. Yeah. The sheet gives me sort of permission, like, hey, you're doing fine, Adam. You're getting what you want. No, what keeps me going is that part of me is frustrated that they never teach us in elementary school how, and like, there's no manual on how to be an entrepreneur. But there's some basic foundations that are there that would be that they just don't teach us. They don't teach you tax benefits of starting your own business. They don't teach, I don't mean this in a patron. I hate when people are like, oh, it's really simple and nobody has a clue what you're talking about. But nobody has a clue because it's not taught to us. But the concept of cost of goods and an inventory management system, basically any business is probably, other than a pure service business, is probably going to have inventory. So why wouldn't they teach you how to manage inventory in the 8th grade? I guarantee it's more practical than the quadratic equation I was learning in 8th or 9th grade, which I could not tell you one bit. And I have a bad track record of math theories on this show, so I'm not going to dive into that. But so there's this like frustration where, like the scene in Pulp Fiction when they open the suitcase and it just glows in their face. That's what I feel like that I've discovered when I stepped out on my own and said, I'm going to be totally self-employed and I'm going to go chase this thing down, is like this little like, wah, there it is. And that I can do that I can do it on my own terms, that I can get by. And it's not this, I don't know, it was always like this like magical, like unknown genie thing that I just wasn't given a lamp when I was the right age. And then, I don't know, I guess the pandemic caused it, or, a quarter century in food and beverage caused me to look for something else. And you go, it's there. And I don't want to give that up, and I don't want to lose it. Now you can't go down with a sinking ship. You can't just like, again, I got goals, dreams, son going to go to college, or if he wants to go to college, we need to be able to help him with that. I don't want to live on canned beans and cocktail weenies and retirement. I want to have a good retirement. So all of those things, but chasing that, wait a minute, I feel like this was kept from me for half my life. I'm not letting it stay away from me the rest of my life. That's the thing that drives me. What gives me guidance on whether I'm doing well enough or acceptable enough or looking out for my family or my role in my family enough. That's the sheet. And I love filling it out. Every day I'd fill it out. It's all my debts, all my income, all what the market.
Every single day, Adam. Every single day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's a blast, man. Like, people are like, I love watching sports. I like sports. I like figuring out the finances. I mean, it's a calming thing. Like, in a moment of panic, true data is really helpful for some people. And I thought, by the way, for like such a dark show, I have some really fun stuff coming up, which is primo. I got those of y'all that some people were talking about in the chat. Those of y'all that watched the Tuesday night show, I had, with the help of Tito, by the way, somebody suggested that we, instead of outing the person that wrote, this scathing email to me, we have Chat GPT AI write me some emails to straighten me out for my shortcomings. And let me tell you, that machine.
I don't know about this email.
It's out there, man. We can't just redo the whole show. So I'll give you the short version here in a minute. But one thing I did want, like, let me take a really like honest dark turn though for a minute. So I've talked about it some. I have this like pressurized anxiety. So everything I've talked about is what I want to protect. That's a goal, a dream. It's an excitement. It's a healthier life than I was living. And it makes me better in most of what I do, but it makes me antsy and I get this anxiety. I want to be clear and I want to like give it a little bit of a platform. I'm talking about day to day, really kind of nervousness and antsiness.
Yeah.
There is and I never realized this till frankly it was too late and I lost one of my friends. There's a crippling anxiety condition that typically goes with depression. It typically is coped with by either antidepressants or worse, self-medication with substance abuse. And that's not what I'm talking about. And that's a very serious thing. If you see that with your friends, if you see that, just be there for them. It's hard to, it really is off-putting, but see through it with your friends, because there comes a point where it just seems easier to say goodbye to the life, to the world, than it does to keep coping. And one of my friends that is dealing with that, he described it as stand in a shower that you're getting burned in, adjust the water to where you think it should be, and then wait 3 weeks to see if that works or not and if you're comfortable. And in the meantime, stand there in the burning water. And then in 3 weeks, it might still not be right and it might still need an adjustment. And then one day you could wake up and something have changed, or you get a little different chemical flying through the old neurons, and suddenly the water's burning you again and you got to adjust it and wait another 3 weeks. And when they put it that way, it really kind of hit home. And so anyway, it's not that kind of anxiety I'm talking about. And I don't mean to mix words with that condition. So I've lost 2 friends to that condition and a couple others that struggle with it. So that's not what I'm talking about. But so my own nervousness, my own antsiness, my own not that kind of anxiety kind of drives me a little bit. But so that's the piece to that. So I'll give you the quick catch up, Joe.
Hang on. I just want to say something about this sheet too, this goal sheet of yours.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And 2 things. Number one is just yesterday, I had a conversation with somebody that I work with, and we set this goal to make a certain amount of money on top of what we're already doing in the next 4 months.
This is business wise, or this
is business wise?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Business. Yeah.
And just setting that goal and having a solid number and making it, smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, it's so motivating. It is so motivating. It's like, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to get there? Because, and I would add something to that acronym SMART, which I think that we've mentioned before on this show.
Go through it one more time though, because it's valuable. I like it.
SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So I would add what is going to be the result of this goal and connect with that result of the goal. Because you could go, I have a goal and it's going to be this, and then you achieve the goal. It's not necessarily the goal that's going to motivate you. It's what is going to, it's the thing that comes after that goal. So if we make this certain amount of money in the next 4 months, we'll be able to buy another firm's book, right? Which is a really good book. And then our profits, revenue increases, all of that stuff, right? It's that's motivating me, not getting to the goal, but the spoils that come from getting to the goal. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And there was a couple comments in here. Sarah said that that's an accurate description, and I want to portray it properly. I've never experienced it myself, but I certainly want to portray it that way, or in a right way. Luke, I did not make it to Des Moines on Sunday. I went to Green Bay with Scaled Up Exotics. We'll just watch the replay, you'll get the recap on it. Reptile Brother says vision board is what me and my wife call it. I was always a dude that was like, when people would talk about, I'm going to manifest this thing, and I'm like, I don't know that the universe cares that I'm going to retire early and have these dreams and goals. But I've stopped throwing that out there at people, because whether you call it manifesting, whether you call it a vision board, whether you call it a financial spreadsheet of goals that you check every day, those are things that motivate you, and they're benchmarks that you get excited about reaching. And then to your point, Joe, I have this really, like, again, it's almost like a backwards theory that I found out about myself. I tend to enjoy the anticipation of the thing more than the thing.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I got to go to Hawaii one time. I loved the 3 months leading up to Hawaii, knowing I was going to Hawaii. Hawaii was great. And I have like 4 or 5 like really good memories. And I would go back in a second. But the excitement of knowing I was going was amazing. Yeah. And so there's a little bit of that. And you talk about me being you don't talk about it. I talk about me being antsy right now. Can you imagine, you know me well enough. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine let's just say this hypothetically could happen. There's a day I'm in my hopefully early to mid 50s and I go, I've made it. I'm done. I'm going to sit around and enjoy life.
Nope. No, you're never going to do that.
I have no earthly idea what happens when I hit that goal. Like, I'm terrified. I'll go crazy. Like, and I want to wake up and be like, I'm going to have some coffee. I'm going to read some, maybe I'll read some Thoreau on the back porch. I'll go fly fishing this afternoon. And tonight I'll watch my Gators, beat the crap out of the Bulldogs. That would take about 10 years to get that done. So yeah, we'll do that. I want that to make sense to me, but I just don't know that that's going to get put into practice very well.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm not sure.
The other thing about the goals is I'd like that you're transparent about this as well. Like, telling people your goals, I think, is really helpful, because then it's like, oh, I told people like that. That'll either help me be accountable, because I don't want to look like I just like gave up on my goals to other people, or it'll help them be accountable for you. Like, hey, what's going on with this thing? Did I ever tell you the goal thing with Chelsea when I first met Chelsea?
No. Was it getting her to conning her to fall in love with you and let her? I'm joking, Joe.
No, we met.
We could both say we overkicked our coverage. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There we go.
So we met in a bar. We were talking. It was fun, and she was training for a triathlon at the time, and I was in a lot better shape than I am now.
You're like, time to buck up, kiddo. I gotta get.
And I had thought about doing a triathlon, and I said to her, "Oh, I'm doing a triathlon too."
You started manifesting real hard, real fast.
I don't know. It was there in my head and just came out. I was like, just try it, just see what happens. And so I was like, maybe. I mean, we're in San Antonio, Texas. She's from Florida. I'm from Pennsylvania. I thought, I don't know, and I had thought about doing it, but then we kept in touch. Then after we went back to our respective places where we lived, and then she eventually said, "When's your triathlon?"
You're like, I'm going to need pictures in a Speedo of me like crossing the lake, right?
Well, then I was like, well, I have to find a triathlon and do it. So I found a triathlon, and that's how I got my first triathlon done. So that's the story that I use to say, if you have a goal, tell somebody that goal, because they'll either keep you accountable or you're going to keep yourself accountable by, it being out in the world.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot to that. I think even with addiction, they talk about that. And maybe that I don't know the steps well enough, or at all for that matter. I've fortunately not been in that world, but I think that's one of the things, is that you're open with people about your goal, about your struggle, about probably needing help. And, hey, I'm not going to be able to hang out, but we're still going to be great friends. But I can't do that. But that's the positive version. So did you do the triathlon?
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Okay. And then you got the girl.
Yeah.
It's like a Disney movie. Like you're like the prince that does the triathlon.
I had to do the triathlon to get Chelsea. But then I did others like they got me into doing that, and it was really fun. So it was great. Anyway, so
should we switch to the
let's switch because I want to hear what happened.
So there's a what is the guy's name? Shoot, I was going to cite him and I don't know his name now, which is I do know his name, Mark Manson. There's this stoic influencer guy that I kind of like, and he has a weekly email, and it's great. It's one email, 1 week, 3 thoughts to think of kind of deal.
Is he the guy that wrote the book Don't Give a F About What People Think of You?
No, I don't think so. The fine art of giving 0 F's deal.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not him.
Okay.
Some similar ideas. One of his thoughts one week, which I have a tough time coming around to sometimes because it sounds like super like whatever, make me roll my eyes when I read it first. And he says, what if the most terrible things that happen to you, you make them wonderful things? And I'm like, that doesn't work that way because they're terrible. That's why they don't work. That's why I don't make them the best thing ever. But it stuck with me when, excuse the language, shitty stuff comes around. Okay, how am I going to make this the best thing? So again, I'm driving back from, and I'll make this quick because I covered this in depth on Tuesday night. I'm driving back from Green Bay. Somebody I've interacted with over a 2-year period. They've been a supporter of the show. I've tried to assist them. I've tried to be gracious to them. Not tried to be, I was. And they email me and basically say, in reference to your previous guest and what you've become is, real garbage. I'm gone. And boom, that was it. I'll never be back. You won't hear from me. There's a promise. Write it down. And so that added to the long 5-hour drive with the 4:18 p.m. sunset, $0 trip, 5-hour drive.
Your previous guest, meaning who?
Okay, so there's a guy named Chris Eaton. He's a real good, bad, indifferent. He's an icon in the industry. Everybody's got an opinion on him. I keep my show pretty PG. He keeps his show pretty all the other way, all the other direction. And I know Chris. Chris knows me. The audience knows Chris. There was no surprises. I gave a disclaimer at the front of it. Hey, this show's probably going to be a little bit different. Okay. And Chris and Steven are really good friends, and Steven was on the show. Steven's a really good friend of mine. I hadn't interacted with Chris before. And so the simple answer is change the channel. If that moment was going to be offensive, it doesn't redefine me. And a lot of people put it in a really great way. All we have in this life is discourse. If all we do is exclude people that are different from us, what discourse can we ever have? Yeah. So all that show went great. We actually inadvertently raised a whole lot of money that I was able to donate to some really good causes in our industry. I gave that money away by the next morning. So in the mindset of how can you make this awful thing a great thing? And it's not like I just have thin skin after being on YouTube for 3 years and running restaurants for 27 years. It made a good platform for how do we discuss things with each other? How do we converse more healthily, all that. But it was a little bit of fun just to go through and be like, no, wrong. Nope, get out. No. So I didn't out the person. We're not going to go headhunting. And I didn't read the actual email. And one of my comments was, frankly, who has time? None of this is that important. If you feel yourself sitting down to compose a mail to tell me off, save yourself the time and the headache. And Tito, in a very smart, efficient way, goes, yeah, nobody's got time for that. Get AI to write the email for you.
So you got you used
So I said, you know what? Let's see if AI can approach the email that I received from this guy and represent it without outing the person and without doing the terrible things that would be I would frown upon. I would say, get this person out of your life, move on. We don't need to give them the time of day, none of that. So allow me, if I may, I won't be able to see your reaction, but I'd like to orate a few of these emails that ChatGPT put together for me.
So ChatGPT, you asked ChatGPT to write a response to this email?
No. I wanted it to like recreate the email, but I'll tell you the prompts that I put in. I'll even tell you the prompts that I typed in. And then apparently the idea caught on because I got a couple viewers ChatGPT emails that they got it. I gotta say. So buckle up, kiddos. Are you ready, Joe? If this gets too rambling, like me just reading stuff, like that's not really a show, is it? Maybe it is. Maybe I'll just try and hit the high points, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so. I went to ChatGPT and I said, I really wish I had given you the script because I could be me and you could be ChatGPT, which would be really great, but we didn't show prep enough. All right. So I prompted it to say, ChatGPT, please, and I'm very polite to the AI bot, please write a disgruntled viewer email to Adam, the host of the Ball Python podcast, Proper Royals. Here's what it came up with. First try. Dear Adam, I hope this email finds you well, although I must confess I'm far from feeling the same way after listening to several episodes of your podcast, Proper Royals. I felt it necessary to express my deep disappointment and frustration with the content and tone of your show. As an avid ball python enthusiast, I was genuinely excited to discover a podcast dedicated to these magnificent creatures. However, my enthusiasm quickly turned into disillusionment as I delved deeper into your episodes. It is disheartening to witness the lack of professionalism and genuine respect for the subject matter that you display as the host. It was like ChatGPT had read this email.
Really?
Yeah. Let me see here.
This is making me self-conscious.
Just wait. We're just starting, Joe. Just you wait. Let me see. There's 3 more paragraphs. I'm going to read them all because it rambles. Furthermore, your attitude and demeanor towards your listeners and fellow enthusiasts are nothing short of disrespectful. Your condescending tone and dismissive comments to callers and guests on the show are not only rude, but also deeply unprofessional. All right. As we wrap up, it says, I implore you to take this feedback seriously and consider making significant improvements to your podcast. Ball pythons enthusiasts, myself included, deserve a platform that educates, inspires, and respects its audience. I hope you could reflect on these points and work towards creating a more informative, respectful, and professional podcast in the future. All right. That's pretty direct, pretty good. A couple things. One, myself included, deserve. That's always a red flag. Nobody deserves anything. Don't tell me what you deserve. ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Secondly,
you don't deserve anything. ChatGPT.
Secondly, this thing looks forward to me improving. No, not harsh enough, because this guy was never going to look forward to me improving. So I said, ChatGPT, come on, don't hold back. Really let Adam have it. So and then it created another email. I'll read you that one, okay? So this is take 2, second draft. I can't see any comments or your expression, Joe. So I'm just winging it here. I'm trusting that you're captaining the ship there.
Sure, yeah.
Here we go. Dear Adam, this is after I tell it. Really let Adam have it. Dear Adam, I don't know where to begin with my utter disappointment in your podcast, Proper Royals. Frankly, your performance as a host is nothing short of abysmal, and I cannot hold back my frustration any longer. Now we're getting there. This is close to the tone. Your lack of knowledge of preparation is glaringly evident in every episode. It's infuriating to listen to someone who clearly has no understanding of the subject matter they're discussing. Your shallow research and lack of depth you cover are an insult to the intelligence of your listeners. We deserve better than your lazy, ill-informed content. Like, if you ever want to tell somebody off, go to ChatGPT. Get them to do some work for you.
Yeah, that is much more hurtful.
Oh, but wait a second here. But what truly makes my blood boil is your insufferable attitude. Your condescension towards callers and guests is beyond disrespectful. It's downright obnoxious. Who do you think you are, treating people with such disdain? Okay, here we go. In short, as we wrap up, in short, Adam, you're an embarrassment to podcasting, to the ball python community, and to anyone who values intelligence, respect, and ethical responsibility. I urge you to reevaluate your approach, educate yourself, and start treating your listeners and the subject matter with the respect they deserve. Until then, this thing is still optimistic. It still is leaving the door open for some reparations. Until then, count me out as a listener. Oh, and then it ends with disgustedly, comma, and then it even leaves blanks for you to fill in your own name, your email address, and your phone number. So it's a nice little form letter.
Oh, it leaves blanks, like it says your name.
Yeah, it does. And then, so I said,
wow, the wonders of AI, really.
Oh, well, and we've just pulling back the onion. We're getting close there because Tito's email really brought it home. But then I said to ChatGPT, listen, ChatGPT, I typed in, I need a few personal insults thrown in about Adam and his guests on the show. Like, I really wanted to see how close we could get to the accurate tone of the email that I received.
Okay.
And I said, I need a few personal insults thrown in about Adam and the guests on the show, please. ChatGPT replied with this. This is what ChatGPT says. I understand that you're feeling frustrated, but it's important to communicate your feedback respectfully and professionally. Resorting to personal insults is not constructive and can escalate the situation negatively. If you have specific concerns about the podcast or its content, I'm here to help you express those concerns effectively without resorting to insults. Even ChatGPT gets it.
Even ChatGPT, artificial intelligence is morally upright
than the person I've helped for 2 years. That's correct. Yes. Now Tito, he used a little bit of a different, a little bit. Oh, cool. Ken's in surround sound with the professional sound. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
So Tito apparently used,
but he only says you sound more professional. I still sound like a novice.
You're in a tin can, the little can. What was that BS in cartoons growing up? The tin can with the string, like we were going to hear something?
I don't know.
What a disaster, right?
What a disaster.
Quicksand, BS. Boxes falling on you and killing you. That could happen.
Anvils.
Anvils. You had to watch out. Lots of anvils.
Watch out.
All right. So here's Tito's. Apparently, if you go to the Friday AI chatbot, this one really stung. I actually thought Tito threw in a little bit of his own, what would you call it? Je ne sais quoi, however you pronounce that, right on the top.
Are we sure that Tito used AI and he wasn't just voicing his displeasure in another way?
Tito's an honest man, and I mean that as in he will tell you the truth whether you want to know it or not.
He's the are we on decaf this morning?
Yes. That's right. So I
like Tito.
Yeah, I trust that this is honest chat AI bot material. Allow me to refresh my wet my whistle, as we say. Here we go. This is the one that really kind of nailed it. Got to say.
Okay.
Here we go.
Friday AI is the one to use for insulting emails. Go.
Yeah, Tito says his would have been way shorter, and it's true. Yeah, I could tell you the 3 words that would have been involved, and 2 of them I can't say on television. Dear Proper Royals, I'm addressing this message to all of you. Apparently, I'm a plural, which is cool. I'm bigger than the sum total of myself. With an intensity of frustration and disappointment that I can barely put into words. When I initially subscribed to your podcast, it was with the expectation of captivating, high-quality content that would engage my interest. However, and I feel bad, I'm not going to say the guy's name because somebody will make a reel of me crapping on this dude and then want to start drama. So I'm not getting caught into that trap.
Yeah.
However, your recent decision to bring so-and-so on board has entirely eclipsed that expectation, plunging us all into a pit of mediocrity. It's got a real way with words. I love this thing. Honestly, what were you even thinking? In what twisted universe does it seem like a good idea to invite so-and-so on your podcast? This AI bot really has captured the email that I got. His opinions are misguided. His thought process seems to be as disorderly as the clearance section in a discount store. And his contributions are about as fascinating as watching paint dry. So let me make this abundantly clear in case my disappointment has been lost in my verbose frustration. Your series, which was once a beacon of promising content, has now dwindled in appeal thanks to your latest recruit. It feels like you've taken my expectations, dumped a bucket of cold water on them, then tossed them in a slow cooker just to see how much more they could take. So good. I don't know how else to express my dissatisfaction with you guys, so I'll just say it directly. Go F yourself. You've desecrated what used to be a fantastic platform and reduced it to trite, uninteresting dribble. You have vastly underestimated your listeners, and for that, you owe us an apology. You're unwilling to acknowledge your missteps and provide us with the enriching content we originally subscribed for. If you're unwilling to acknowledge your missteps, it's giving me like my repentance checks here. If you're unwilling to acknowledge your missteps and provide us with the enriched content that we originally subscribed for, then it's high time. I don't use high time enough. It's high time I click the unsubscribe button, permanently severing ties with your series. This isn't some tough love scenario. It's basic decency and respect for your audience. Now, I have to say, this chat is still giving me the opportunity to repair things and improve. The other person, they did not. They were out the door.
Gotcha.
One more paragraph, and then we're going to quit this. In conclusion, Proper Royals, your podcast's recent episode with so-and-so not only stepped on my last nerve, but also obliterated any remaining faith I had in your series. Unless you make some drastic changes, again, leaving hope, the only journey you'll embark on is a downward spiral towards mediocrity. Disgusted. And it also leaves space for your name and contact info.
It's a form letter. Yeah.
So my point is, ChatGPT smoked the original, the inspiration's writing and email ability, and I'm having fun with it. And I took the bad day, and now I made it good. And I hope, I hope in this
back. Okay, yeah, gotcha.
I hope in the great tradition of satire, I've demonstrated how silly it is to treat somebody that way. Have a reasonable conversation, or say thanks, goodbye. I don't know.
I don't think I've cared that much about anything in my entire life to write something like that.
Right?
And maybe that's a personal problem. I don't know.
I did. In my reply, I did actually include, I truthfully am flattered that you care this much, but there's no need to. And I ended my reply with, upon some reflection, it's probably healthy that your decision to move on is probably healthy for both of us. So
you replied. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, you replied because you had a relationship with this person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I expressed some of that disappointment, and then I said, it's probably a healthy decision in retrospect, considering your input. Yeah. So
That's a good reply. That's a good reply.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into the, into the muck and move. You just got to move on. So it's disappointing, but that's okay. And
so let me ask you this.
Yes.
This person, shows up on Thursday morning and starts to be engaged in everything. You welcome them back?
No, I think we would need to have a conversation before that. Yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah, because as joking as those emails were that I just read out loud, that was kind of the tone. Like,
yeah,
that's pretty hard to walk back. If you're going to do that, like, what's worth, because I think at some point, like, I think that being gracious and forgiveness and redemption is some of the most beautiful things in the world.
sure.
I really do.
Yeah.
However, I also think personal boundaries, accountability of behavior, how we treat each other has flown out the window. And I think that is very important. And I don't know that relationship, I don't know that it's going to benefit me to keep or not. And like, not to make things transactional, but what good is going to come out? Why put all the effort and focus on a D or an F player when we have a room of A and B players that we're hanging out with right now? Right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not the guy to save him. Maybe I'm personally offended. Maybe I'm annoyed. But I also don't think that they have the grace, and I don't think they're going to come back from that. Like, very few people have the ability to write something like that, crash and burn, be called out on the carpet for it, and go, yeah, I shouldn't have done it. Because there's not any benefit from them other than the personal fulfillment of being a better person. And that seems to be a lost desire for a lot of people. So I guess why I'm saying no is because I don't think it'll ever happen. If it ever happened, I would probably be appreciative, and I would probably say I would scrutinize and consider what they wrote. But if it seemed heartfelt, sure, there's always hope. I'll never say never, but in my experience, those things don't happen. Very rarely is somebody. I'll just leave it there. I've focused enough on it. I don't think it'll happen.
Let me ask you this: when you get, I imagine this isn't the first time somebody has commented negatively.
Right.
So when somebody comments negatively on your work that you do, what's your reaction? Do you and what does it depend upon as well?
Truthfully, I try and reply to everything. And I don't go looking for fights. I don't go making episodes or multiple episodes about it. I try and engage them with the opportunity. I try and give the benefit of the doubt and assume, in a sense, that they truly are trying to understand something. So, hey, why would you ever do this? Well, it's a new wide audience. It's somebody that I hear is a really great person, and sure, they come across harsh in their language, but they've been known as a great person, and they're really established in the community, and I can reach new people. And it turns out we raised some good money, and I can expand my brand. That's why I did it. Oh, okay, I get it, Adam. Wasn't my cup of tea. But then they might go, no, you're still an idiot. If it's the second time of you're an idiot, then I don't engage anymore. Then I usually just say, hey, this is probably not healthy. We disagree. Take care.
How could criticism be put to you where you go, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe I didn't think of it that way.
No, that I do a lot. A lot of input is that way. Hey, I think you missed the point on this. Hey, you're looking at that. And a lot of times it's business related. Like, oh, so I got some input. Hey, your show breaking down the shows last week was great, but you didn't talk about the cost to produce each animal, the food and the labor that goes into it. And I said, you know what, you're right. I really should have kind of titled it as a sort of a cash flow episode rather than a profit and loss.
Right.
But and then I let the person know I do a big year end recap where I cover my whole year of finances and the business. So I hope you'll check out that show.
Yeah,
that's great. You acknowledge it, you talk about it, and that's building relationships with customers. Essentially, the people consuming the content are the customer. That's taking in their input and listening to them. Look, we're all adults. We've been through enough of life that we can generally sense when somebody's hurling rotten tomatoes at you versus, hey, here's what I thought today. I was looking for something else kind of deal.
Yeah.
So it's usually not that cut and dry. There's usually a little bit of both sprinkled in there,
Sure.
Yeah. So no, it's not me saying I don't want negative feedback. And again, restaurants forever, years now on social media with a, purposeful trying to make a larger presence. Oh yeah, I get a plenty fair share of input, but
Sure. Yeah.
So
one thing I will say about this, what started this whole thing, which it seems to be like, if I don't like you, I'm gonna cut you out of my life, or some people don't like this guy, so cut him off. I just kind of go. I've always found that I learn more about myself when I'm around people who are different from me. So why don't we spend time with people who are different? Like, for example, doing this on Thursday mornings with you all. I've learned a lot about myself, what I'm interested in, what I can think through, what parts of this industry I like. It makes me think about business more. It makes me think about, my relationship to my own dog, so, and it's
which is far more complicated than anything we cover on this show.
But the point that I'm making is, when you step outside of yourself and you spend time with people who, might seem unusual or might be different from who you are, man, you just learn so much more about yourself than just being with people who are like you. And I feel as though we create these capsules that we walk around in because we want to be comfortable. And I'm not going to blame anybody for doing that either, because life is hard enough to have to self-impose a stepping outside of your comfort zone. I completely understand encapsulating yourself in stuff, but man, do I learn a lot when I'm with people who are different from me.
Well, I think that there's I'm proud of it, but I hope it's a healthy setting here where one of our sort of basic tenets is, if you're a good person, you're welcome here. Have your own views, have your own different ideas. And I talked about it on Tuesday. I know for a fact there's people I've met, we would vote differently. We would feel differently on various social topics, probably I hate to say politics, but I mean, financial, taxation, individual versus what would we call it? Federalism versus republicanism. And so, and we do it in a really healthy way here. And then I've ended up hanging out with those people and been very, pretty close friends as far as a professional colleagues go standpoint. So I really love that. And one of my biggest fears, because it is so easy to insulate ourselves, and as we get older and have more resources, you can insulate yourself easier, right? You could join your private club. Everybody thinks just like you. You don't have to face anything different. You can, and maybe not all of us are going to join private clubs, but you can go to the bar of your choice. You could go to, it's not like when you're grinding it out and starting off in a career and you got to work, wherever you can get $1 and hear all these different thoughts. No, you can choose what you want to do. Yeah. So it was really important to me. And actually, like, one of the things I think about in retirement is I never want to be the old dude that's just screaming at the walls about kids these days. It's all going to hell. We've all been saying, all of our grandparents for centuries have all been saying it's all going to hell when they, Henry Ford in his car, he just doesn't respect horses and carriages. They just don't know, and clearly we get better. We're living longer. Medicine is better. All the other stuff that's dividing us is getting stronger, but there is good stuff happening. And one of the reasons why we chose this particular town, Northfield in Minnesota, is there's two I say very big, but both have about 10,000 students, very big college or a prominent college town presence. Mm-hmm. It's a walkable town. This morning, I could walk out to the coffee shop and hear vibrant, clear attitudes of how they're going to fix the world and all the dreams and hopes they have in front of them in their lives without the cynicism of me growing old. And, I like that. And it's purposeful because I don't want to become just the dude. That's a really huge compliment. See there, Joe? I don't want to be the dude that just encapsulates myself in the comfort of not ever facing that the world could change and ideas could improve, and that the end all be all didn't end with my generation, because it clearly hasn't as much as I want it to. We've left stuff that needs to get fixed by my son's generation and his kids' generation. So,
right. Yeah.
David Welch had commented, and it is something that we do in business. And Joe, I think it's something that probably you alluded to earlier, but reflecting on our performance and challenging ourselves to get better and looking at what we could do better is certainly a great way of business, but it's probably a good way of life. And that kind of ties back to my sheet too. Am I on it? Am I doing what should be good?
Right.
And it's hard to disassociate yourself from yourself. So it's easier on computer, how is our code? Can we do it better? Do we please this customer and that stuff? It's hard to do that to yourself, but I like doing that. I think about that a lot. I listen back to shows. What could I have done better? How could I speak more publicly? Is there a framework of better show prep? Or are we doing pretty good with the off the cuff? Is that the attractive part? I think about all those things.
Sure. I think you may have alluded to it. When you receive, it's difficult to receive. Even I think it's more difficult these days to receive criticism, because sometimes the criticism is so wrapped up in who the person is, that you're doing this and you're doing that, instead of looking at the action that the person did and saying, hey, why did you do this? I didn't really like that you did that, or the product could have been better, or and so it's difficult to receive that. But I think that's a skill as well, is to go, okay, this is something that I did, even if the feedback is constructive and it's not, and it isn't wrapped up in who you are personally. I think it's still even a little bit, you're a little bit hurt by it because you did something, So,
right. Well, the more you care about something that's being criticized, the more it hurts, because you care about it so much.
There's a great Pixar article or article about Pixar when they were making all of those great movies in the 2000s, about their creative process and how they would have regular meetings with ideas that were not fully cooked, so that people could come together and go, this isn't a fully cooked idea. Let's talk about it and see where the problems are. And everybody seemed okay with that, because they understood that this isn't the final product. This is a work in progress. And that's what everything is. I mean, we didn't even know.
I think we should do a whole show on supporting creative freedom and sort of in a business terms and in the framework of our show. I think that Pixar example is great. I don't want to dive into it. I know we're in overtime already.
Yeah, let's.
Maybe that'll be next week.
Okay.
Because there's been some really great creative exercises, and I've talked some about it before, but I think it's worth revisiting. How do you fuel innovation? How do you fuel creativity? And it comes from partially being able to talk to each other and accept some different ideas, rather than everybody's an idiot, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
I'm sorry. I hate asking people right after I say something. It's so demeaning. I got to stop doing that. I hate that when people do that to me.
Gee. Gosh.
All right. Right. Oh, it's the worst.
No, I think that's fine. Why? You don't like that? I like that.
No, it puts pressure on somebody to sort of force agreement with you. Like there's times where I want to be like, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, gosh. Yeah. Anyway, these are the crazy things I think of in my head. So I never want to be the preaching, patronizing person. So I will frame this as in, this is what worked with me. And when you have irate customers in restaurants that feel entitled to tell you, because they've watched Food Network for a long time, so they know. Or when I'm working with a large staff of a diverse population of people working in restaurants, I think we'd all agree that attracts quite a diversity across the spectrum of folks. Seek to understand. And while you're seeking to understand, assume innocence. And sometimes even telling the person that when they are losing it in your face and you go, I see this is important to you. I want to really understand what you're talking about. And I'm going to assume that you're coming and discussing this with me with good intentions, even though it doesn't feel that way right now. So to those 2 points, here's why I did this. Here's the situation. And here's what's going on. Can I take steps to make it better, or are you done with the conversation? And then you get past the, I'm just mad, I want to tell you an idiot. At the end of the day, do you want a great burger or not? Because if you don't like the one that I brought, I'll make it better and I'll explain why, and I'll put you over the top of why, you're going to leave here a raving fan, hopefully. But if you're not interested in any of that, I'll just take this away and you can go, so that's what I would say. Seek to understand and assume innocence while you're seeking to understand.
That's a good place to wrap up, I think.
A couple really quick housekeeping things. Gecko Man, I saw your note. Sorry I didn't get back to you. I won't be at NARBC Kansas City this weekend. I need a weekend off. That's an 8-hour trip. $500 table by the time I buy the table to vend, hotel on top of it. So I won't be there. That response is not in reference to his comment, Joe. It was a comment in a different place. I could see the wheels going. You're like, what is Adam talking about? Anyway, yeah, I'll miss it this weekend. Have fun, everybody. If you're going to NARBC next weekend, I'll be at the Cold Blooded Expo in Bloomington, Minnesota. Thanks for all the kind words. I don't think I emphasized enough. Rick at Creative Coralofus, that compliment was amazing. Thank you guys for tuning in. I guess next week we'll talk about creative innovations in a workspace. How about that?
All right. Yeah, let's do that. Let's see. I'll be looking.
Are you going to Replicon?
I haven't decided this new thing. I have the time is freed up. So yeah, possibly I'll be there. I'll look for Josh and Sarah there, and
Shannon will be there. Who else did you meet? That will be there's a lot of great breeders that you'll meet that you could meet that will be there. You're going to be like, you're going to enter the world of people being like, it's Joe. And you're going to be like, who are you? And they're going to be like, well, my real name is Stan, but I go by Sea of Serpents. And you're like, oh, Sea of Serpents. It's you. It's such a weird world, man. It's the craziest thing ever. All right, guys, have fun at Kansas City. Have fun at Tampa Repticon. We'll do it again next week, Joe.
Yeah, let's do it. See you then.
You want the last word, or has the last word been spoken?
That's it. You got it. Let's go.